Hi, I'm Keith Cooper from Northlight Images, and in this short video I'm going to have a look at some aspects of printing. A few typical printing problems people get, and why it's a sound belief of mine that by learning to print your photography, it improves all your photography. So making prints reflects back on the quality of your overall photography, and it's not just a technical exercise, it benefits everything: composition, thinking about how you're going to take photos, even what you decide to take photos of. Anyway, I've got several areas that I'll mention. There is an article which expands on this and has links to other articles and all kinds of information on the Northlight website that could, I hope, be of interest to people and of use in exploring your own photography. Anyway, starting here, I've got my old MacBook. I wouldn't normally use a laptop for editing photos if possible. The screen brightness and contrast changes as you move your viewing angle. That's not ideal for getting an accurate print. But anyway, here's a print made from that image there during my testing of this, which is the Canon Pro 200 printer. I've picked this printer to use as an example here, not because it's the best printer in any way. It's actually the cheapest of the ones I've looked at recently, but I've made some excellent prints from it. The quality of prints you get from modern printers is almost entirely based on your own abilities, photographic abilities, editing abilities, and being able to use the printer. If I got a better printer, and I do have to look on the back of these test prints to see which printer they were printed on, they're that close these days. If I got a better printer, it probably wouldn't make that much of a difference. It could, but only if I really knew what I was doing. So don't think just by buying a better printer, your prints will magically get better. They may get larger. So this is a limited one to A3 plus size, which is this size here. But don't think necessarily that just throwing money at the problem will fix it. No, if it's a problem with your photography, you actually have to go out and take some photos. But a few things that can cause issues for people. Quite often people say, I print and my prints come out too dark. There's a ready reason for that. The most obvious one is that your screen is too bright. If you have your screen too bright, you adjust the picture and get it to look right on the screen. You then print and you view the print in a much dimmer light. Now, as I've got it set up here, these are broadly similar between the two, and I've adjusted that so you can actually see this on the video, but it's not automatic. One of the things you need to do is calibrate your monitor. Now, there are loads of monitor calibrators. This is an X-Rite i1 Pro. It works very well. There are others. You don't need to do it that often. I calibrate my own monitors every month or so, and I'm a working photographer, so I know some people do it more often. With modern monitors, they don't drift that much. You don't need to. But anyway, that's an i1 Pro. Loads of details on the website about different aspects of calibration. But what it means is that if I calibrate my screen, I have a much better chance of what I see here matching what I get out of the print. Now, a lot of people get a printer, they get some paper, and they start off testing with images like this. This is one I took at the harbour at Amble in Northumberland. There's a boat unloading fish and people waiting to actually buy fish directly from the boat. That's great because I know how this printer works. I've done all the calibration. I know what's going on. But with a new printer and a new paper, what I always suggest is the first thing is perfect a few test images. Now, these examples, I've got loads of them on the website. There's some available for free download. That's a color test image. And by using that, it lets me get a feel for how the paper works, how it works with a particular printer, how images look. Well, why not just use one of my own images for testing? The reason is this picture has an emotional attachment. I have a feeling for how it should look. It's one I took on holiday. It's an image I quite like. And all of those can cloud your judgment when you're looking at the technical side of getting printing working properly. So use these dull test images, and as I say, I've got quite a few of them, to get a feel for whether the printing is working technically correctly or not. We'll worry about artistic concerns later, but if you can't print a good copy of one of these test images, what hope have you got for printing an actual photograph you've taken, one you've worked on, and one you want to get a print out of? That's colour. I also have, because I do a lot of black and white photography, I have a specialised test image, and this one is printed on board. Not on this printer, this was done on an Epson printer, and this is a black and white test image. Similarly, for testing purposes, this helps me get everything right first time more often, and that's the aim of colour management. There are lots of details, and there's a video I've done all about using this test image and black and white printing if you're particularly interested in that. What about the paper you're printing on? I get quite a lot of people ask me, would my printing be improved if I used paper brand X that somebody on the web said is really nice? Possibly. But the problem is, unless you've actually taken time to master printing on your printer with fairly basic papers, and I would suggest if you're new to printing with a printer, you try some of the manufacturer's own papers. So in this instance, it would be some Canon papers. So for example, these are some sample Canon papers. I'm not saying that the Canon papers are better for a Canon printer or Epson papers better for an Epson printer, but those papers were involved when they were designing and building the printer. That means if you can't get a good print on a manufacturer's paper, then a third-party paper, who knows what you're going to get. Start simple. I know it's dull printing test images and just using the manufacturer's paper. I've got another video about choosing new papers, but what I would say is I always make a point of starting simple. Master the basics, and then you will have the abilities to be able to see whether differences you do in processing paper are actually making a difference, or all you're actually noticing is that something is different, but you can't say what it is. So in terms of papers, that's a glossy paper, that's a glossy paper. Now I've got glossy papers here with this Canon Pro 200 because this happens to be a particularly good printer for that type of print. Other printers print black and white better, or print on Barita style papers, matte photo papers, all different things. Different printers work better with different papers. For example, this is a watercolour paper. You'll notice it gives really nice deep blacks. That's done on the Pro 200 here. This is something that it does particularly well. But unless you take the time to experiment and look at how different papers behave, you're unlikely to get the real benefits of using a specialist paper. In many ways, what I'm saying is learn to trust your judgment, and your judgment will be perfected by looking at your own prints and looking at them carefully, looking at the bad prints as well as the good prints. Good prints, great, show them to people, people appreciate them. I always keep all of my photographs and I look through the bad ones as well, because the bad ones often tell me far more than the good ones about how to get better photos. People ask sometimes about how do I get my prints to match my screen? And in a way, that's asking the wrong question. If you are making prints, the aim is to make the best looking print, not the best looking image on the screen. If you want the best looking image on the screen for web use or something like that, that's a different matter. But for making prints, it's the print that counts. Now, I've made thousands of prints over the years in testing printers and for my own use for my business as a commercial architectural photographer. But I'm always experimenting, and I always realize that it's the print that counts. By saying, how do I make my prints match the screen? It's the wrong way round. It's almost like going back to film days saying, look at these great negatives. Oh, don't worry about the prints, but the negatives are great. Nobody cares about how your negatives look. They care about what the print looks like at the end. So learn to trust your judgment Be sparing in the use of tools like soft proofing. It can help, but can easily become a crutch to help you save looking too intently at your pictures. So there's just a few hints there about things that I regard as important about printing. Please do have a read of the longer article, because there's far more in it, far more details, far more links to other things that hopefully can help you improve your photography and your printing. Thanks very much.